I'm going to get the meeting started if that's okay with everybody. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Please call the roll, noting that Ms. Fisher has notified us over here.
Councilmember Cousins.
Here.
It's just Councilwoman Fisher will be absent this evening. Councilmember Knight. Here. Councilmember Michelle.
Present.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Tell.
Yes.
Mayor Keel.
Here. Item C is approval of the meeting minutes from our regular city council meeting of March 12th.
I'll move the minutes of the regular city council meeting.
Moved by Smith. Second by Knight. Thank you both. Mr. Smith, any comments?
On page 4, under 6, mayor's report, on the third bullet, it talks about the goal setting workshop, and that was on the 24th, not 26th. Other than that, I don't have.
Ms. Knight, anything? Anyone else?
Yeah.
Zach?
Page 4, the first bullet point under the city manager report, it should be Pazer with an E, P-A-S-E-R.
Good catch.
And on page 6, under my council comments, it's capped with the T after the P. Chelsea Area Planning Team.
Oh.
Or we've been informally calling it Chexter as well.
I like that. You got shirts?
We're working on its way.
That's the new
Shirts.
Has attendance increased with the new app?
It has, yes.
Good.
Clearly.
Good. Okay. Any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes with those corrections, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We have no prearranged participation tonight, so we're down to approval of the agenda. I don't think there's anything new on the council items in front of us.
I'll move the agenda, but I have one question. If we get the support.
Second.
Moved by Smith, second by Tell.
On the consent agenda,
Discussions.
regarding number 4. There's a map on page 59 and a map on page 60. And I haven't been able to figure out any difference between them.
Oh.
They look like they're the same map, but I'm not sure. I thought maybe I'm missing something.
No, I think it's just the same map twice.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I knew I couldn't ask.
They weren't changing, they're not changing anything from what they did last year. They're nowhere else.
They didn't even change the date.
Yeah. Very hard to get things to get updated.
Yeah. But I know I couldn't ask about them
Yeah, no, that's.
during the consent agenda, so
It's the same.
thank you.
Other questions, comments on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We have no public hearings this evening, so we're down to non-arranged participation. This is the spot on the agenda for anyone in the audience to speak on any topic. Is there anyone that would like to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will keep moving. There were 2 communications in the packet, our upcoming meeting list and the signed calendar. Any comments from council on those 2?
No ZBA this coming month.
No, I sent out a cancellation notice today.
Okay. Comments? Okay, we're down to our first report, which is written tonight from our Public Services Superintendent. Let's see if there's any questions, Courtney or Justin or Michelle will do the best they can. Paul?
I just have one. The first one, DPW, is hauled snow.
Is that the snow that's in downtown, they have to haul out of there, and where do we put that?
Most of it's on the Grand Street, the foot of Grand.
Okay,
So
so-
we didn't stack it next to Don Darnell's building this year.
I saw that.
At his request, really.
Oh, so,
And
okay.
because we knew we wouldn't be, I mean, once he had a tenant, we weren't gonna really be able to do that, so they kind of.
Okay, so they put it on
shifted it.
granite, so,
Yeah.
so let me, I mean, it's just a question, and maybe it's not even a major concern here, is that, do we feel there's a lot of salt that we're picking up when we do that, or is that just fresh snow that we're moving from point A to point B?
It's both, because it's from the parking lots and all the downtown areas, so I think it would be, salt and snow and, there's really not.
Is there any other place to, I guess, my concern, I guess, is very is proximity there to the creek
Right.
and to the fishing areas there that we have there, and are we adding a lot of
Yeah,
salt to that
Not necessarily,
spot?
I don't know, I mean, honestly, Paul, when you think about, once we do 3045 Broad and that's developed, where are we going to put snow? It's not like a sexy thing to think about, but it's a concern. So if anyone has any, thoughts or ideas, but it's not an easy thing because there aren't great places to put it, it's very built up.
It was just, I just happened to see that, and I said, well, that's what I assumed, because I saw a lot of snow down there, I just made the assumption that's what it was. But I don't know if there's a better place to put it in the city, if we would have to haul it, clear it at Dan Hoy, put it up there,
Right.
I don't know, but,
I know they also stack it at the end of Fifth and Alpine,
Yeah.
oh, yes, okay.
over by the railroad tracks.
Yeah. It was just a concern, that it's the proximity of the
Right.
creek and to the fisheries that are along there, so that's my concern. Okay. We'll have to do something somewhere, sometime.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about as downtown continues to get redeveloped.
The fourth bullet there about the sinkhole in front of PNC,
Mhm.
is there any update on whether MDQ?
No, I signed a form giving them permission to work in the right of way, so they're supposed to come out and pull a sample, and then, based on the results, decide if it can be closed out, so.
Thank you.
I was surprised they had that much involvement in it, honestly, but she said she put it on their list, so.
Great.
Yeah, can you tell me what Andrea and Eric attended the DEQ, what's a PFA meeting? That perks stuff?
Yeah, so that got a lot of coverage from the city of Lapeer. And basically what's happening is it's a chemical that was found in certain industrial uses and.
Is that the Wolverine dump thing?
Yeah, and the problem is that it bioaccumulates in fish. So they're finding it in fish, it's inside these fish. So what they've done now is asked local municipalities who have industrial pretreatment programs like we do to basically test, they have different industries that are more likely to have used this chemical. Now it's been banned. The problem with the chemical is that if you haven't thoroughly cleaned out every single thing it ever touched, it lingers forever. So in Lapeer, they had these big metal titanium tanks, and they weren't using this chemical anymore, but because it had been inside, they cleaned the tanks. It didn't even make a difference. They had to clean like every piece of piping that had ever touched before they stopped discharging it to the plant. So what we have to do is figure out which of our companies in Dexter could possibly have ever used this based on their type of industry, and then test what's coming out of their facility to see if it's something that could potentially be in the city, or be in the.
And this is a DEQ thing?
Yeah.
And they remunerated us for that, right?
They've given a, oh, right, yeah, no. And it's actually a pretty expensive test. Not a lot of places do it because it's parts per trillion, and that's a really, really
I guess
small
that's my
number.
point,
Yeah, no, they don't give
They
us
just
anything.
mandate a test on us if we
Yeah.
gotta.
So we have a few potential areas that we're gonna have tested. I don't think it's gonna be
How do you
a,
base that on your past record?
just types of, so like finishing or metal
Tanning.
solvents. Yeah, different, anything that, they found it in places that make things water resistant, so
Oh.
we don't really have any clothing manufacturing, things like that, but it was in some foam, firefighting foam, but that's different than like what our firefighters would use, but.
Okay, I was just wondering what that
Yeah,
new
they're
mandate
just
was.
gonna keep finding new things for us to test for, because all these great chemicals that do these wonderful things then have consequences, and you don't know what those are until 40 years goes by, and you start finding it in the fish. They are working on hydro flushing. Actually, they're moving along fairly well for the season. We're doing it early.
Julie?
Do we know what the red water was at the treatment plant?
No, you know, sometimes they just get things that come through and they don't seem to have do any damage, you know, didn't kill the bugs or.
It's noticeable enough to make it to the report.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Other comments on the public services report? Zach, was your hand up?
No,
you're
no,
good.
sorry.
No, okay, just making sure, didn't want to miss.
Locked it already.
Cheap throw.
Okay, next up is our community development manager report. Michelle, how are you?
I'm fine. How's council this morning?
Good
I'm sorry,
morning.
this evening.
How are you this night?
You're tired, I
It's been a
reckon.
long day, but I still have a little bit of energy left, so. Okay, you have my report in front of me, and before I go into verbal updates, does anybody have any questions?
No, floor is yours.
Okie dokie. So, just a couple of things. Excuse me. There will be the joint Planning Commission City Council meeting at the next, just before the next Planning Commission meeting on April 2nd. So basically a week from tonight. Starts at 5:30. You will have food again. Megan does a really good job and it'll be interactive. But this is to go over goals and objectives. So this is kind of an important next step in the master planning update process. So if you cannot make it, please let me know. There'll be a second joint meeting, and that will be before the May Planning Commission meeting. That's May 7th, again, 5:30. I promise to feed you again. Again, it'll be interactive, and it will be informative. The next 3045 Broad Street Community Engagement Workshop, April 18th, it's a Wednesday. We've built in an extra 30 minutes into it since this is the one where the project starts to take shape. Density, massing, there might be a little bit of architectural. But again, it will be interactive. And as I've explained to the Planning Commission, I'm strong-arming you as best I can. Please attend.
Just make note that it's at Mill Creek.
It's at Mill Creek Intermediate as
Creekside.
opposed, Mill Creek Middle School as opposed to Creekside. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Let's see, update on tap fees. The Oakland County Water Resource Commission has updated their REU schedule. Their REU schedule really is the basis that created the REU system. They did this back in 1998. And they have now updated it. It's gotten the blessing of MDEQ. It's a very thorough study, very informative, something we'll be talking about with the Utilities Committee coming up. If you want a copy of it, it's a good read. I think you'll enjoy it. Just let me know and I'll send it to you. Also on tap fees, we did receive a list of questions from Oxford City Manager, and I went over it this afternoon. Excuse me. It came from their in-house counsel, so we will be following up with Mark Jacobs, our counsel as it is with tap fees, as well as Tom Traciak, because some of the questions get into the 2006 resolution that set the fee schedule. I think that is it. Did you have any questions regarding the update for the quarterly report? Or is all of that look good for you?
You've been busy.
Yeah.
Sounds like none.
Sounds like none.
Okay,
Okay, thank you all.
thank you. The sheriff written report is in the packet. Does anybody have any comments on the sheriff report?
Hi, on page 27, I'm just looking over their statistics. I noticed a lot of percentage down. Crime just went down miraculously.
I asked about the calls for service change and he
Yeah, that's
said
a
that
lot.
it was busy, it was a combination of a really busy first couple months last year and a really slow first couple months this year. Like it's just, there's not, I mean, anything specific you can point to, it's just,
That sounds so vague.
yeah, I mean, they had extra calls last year and less calls this year, and it looks like a big number, so.
Something's going on. I mean, everything dropped 50%, 70%. Just curious.
Good comment. I'll keep moving right along, if that's okay. We did not have a Watts policy meeting. That was canceled. I think it's because it conflicted with the MML conference. But just so everybody knows that we did not have one in March. Down to city manager report. Please.
I had too many updates. I had we included information here about the cost of recycling going up, so I don't know if anybody had any questions on that, but basically according to our contract is waste management's cost to get rid of recycling is over $30 a ton, we have to pay towards it.
I remember
And,
that.
yeah, and which was good because it went the opposite way too, so we used to get a rebate
Right.
back. Now, they're gonna start paying $70 a ton to get rid of it, so that means we'll be paying $40 a ton, which adds up when you think about 300 tons of recycling, so that will be a cost. We have to look into how that's going to affect the rest of this year, which hopefully will be okay, but for sure, next year that could have an impact.
When does that start?
Now.
Immediately?
Immediate.
We pay $17.50
Residents,
residents.
yeah. So it could need to go up some to cover that. I mean, I know communities are just not having recycling, so
That's
the
really
$12,000 isn't something we can just eat, I mean, we don't have an over/under of that amount.
Our garbage has no value? Yeah.
It is an issue.
The western farther from us has the Western Washtenaw Recycling Authority. We know what their fee is for dumps?
I'm not I don't know.
Okay. That might be something for us to poke around in with the new, with our new contract. Was it 2 years left on?
19,
One.
March of 2019.
Okay.
1 year from now.
Mhm.
Have you heard?
But I
any-
think our,
What, John?
sorry, Ray, I think, total waste collection services is about $500,000.
Mhm.
So, yeah, this represents about a 2% increase.
Well,
This
this
year?
year, yeah.
Well, right, but I mean, just, if you think about that, 2% of 1750 is 30 cents or 35 cents, it's not like it's gonna double it.
Right,
And
well,
and it hasn't gotten, and we've held that number for a number of years also.
I think for at least 4 or 5,
Yeah,
right?
quite a few is my point, so it's not surprising that it was gonna go up at some point, but, right, it might need to go to 18.
I still say it's the best value.
That's my point, I mean, it's not a, it's worth noting, but it's not a huge, I don't think there'll be a huge impact to people. Sorry, Ray.
I'm sorry. Did the Washington County Environmental Program come without any kind of statement, or is this just for, because he was all about
Oh, that.
countywide?
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, this came after that, so.
Well, this is for everyone who contracts with waste.
And our originally are the more local ones that do.
Jim?
Did, Courtney, did you want us to discuss the 3B about the minutes, or?
Oh, we can
Do
do
you
that
want-
now if you want, or I wasn't sure how you wanted to do that.
Or
It's just a comment from the conference.
My comment would be if you have the time to do what you're offering, which is prepare a sample, why don't you do that and share it with us?
In the
and-
next packet.
Yeah, then whenever it's ready, either that or we can discuss it at our budget or whatever.
Yeah, or even over the next couple of meetings,
Yeah.
This meeting, next meeting or something.
Was Coke a parliamentarian?
Can I,
We could
I have
a
coming
like,
back
like,
one, yeah.
an hour-long speech.
Coco was a parliamentarian.
Various
Awesome.
input on what here.
You're okay, we don't even know if we're gonna change that.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say we have done work on that already on our
You're
own,
okay.
so, yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Far be it from us not to consider the trend though. Other comments? Questions for Courtney?
Is there anybody that has not ever been able to afford the Easter eggs extravaganza?
Not that I'm aware of.
If there is, let us Rotarians know. Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty minimal, but you never know. Okay.
Any question?
Do we track where people come from?
No. We haven't sold very many pre-sale tickets, but we tend to sell most of them on the day out, just people
There's a
showing
lot
up.
of people show up.
Yeah, the last few years, we've prepared 250 tickets in advance, and we've always sold out. Well, it's just sold more than we actually had hard copy tickets for.
It's coming up this Saturday. Okay. Okay, the main topic I would like to talk about under my report is the upcoming workshop dates. I appreciate that we've had a lot of workshops already. We had 2 good goal setting sessions, one on February 24th and another one just this past Saturday. But Courtney and I kind of got together and are proposing April 11th. All of these are Wednesdays. April 11th for city manager review. May 2nd for the budget review workshop number 1, which is typically the general fund. And then May 16th for the second one. We could schedule more if we need to, but I'd like to at least get a couple on the calendar. If everybody could check their calendars and let us know.
These are all Wednesdays.
All Wednesdays. They typically work best for everybody, so.
Cool.
Okay, great, great. Does anybody have any questions for me on anything in the report? We covered a couple of those things at the budget, or at the goal setting over the weekend, so I don't need to repeat myself. Okay, keep this going. We're down to 5 items on the consent agenda, and Donna not here tonight. Somebody's gonna get their chance to
I'm
put their name.
gonna be the one to take care of, okay? I'm gonna make the motion that we adopt the 5 items of the consent agenda.
Motion by Cousins. Second by Smith.
You gotta give the amount of the.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
We need the.
Bill's payable amount of,
Jeez, Paul.
excuse me, the bill's amount, I'm sorry, $234,826.49, okay? The appointment of the art selection committee members, the road closures on Sunday for the Dexter Ann Arbor Run, that's Sunday, June the 3rd. Road closures and parking restrictions on Monday, May the 28th for the Memorial Day Parade, and the road closure for May 19th for the Garden Club plant sale.
Thank you. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. We have no old business, so we're down to new business item L1. This is a consideration of the Planning Commission recommendation to approve the special land use request from Northern United Brewing for expansion of their tasting room at 2319 Bishop Circle.
I will move to, based on recommendations of the Planning Commission, information provided by the applicant and staff pursuant to section 8.03 special land use review standards, move to approve AP 207.18-19 special land use application for North Elm Tap House, with the 3 conditions listed on page 67.
Motion by Michelle's.
I'll
Thank you.
second.
Second by Knight, thank you. Okay, discussion or comments?
Well, I did not support this at the planning commission level, and I go back to the history on it, that we approved the tap room, and initially we said that we didn't want it to become a restaurant. And it's moving in that direction, and even more so with putting in a full kitchen. I don't think that's what was presented to us in the very beginning. We even had discussions about not wanting it to become a restaurant. And I believe we should have held our ground to that, and, yeah, I can't support it. So, I think it's got to be much more than just a plain tap room or tasting room.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Cousins?
Can you tell us, Jim, what the vote was in the planning commission?
6-1.
6-1, thank you.
Thank you, Michelle, for doing that.
Yes.
Michelle?
Go ahead.
Is there anything you would like to add or say? You worked hard on this item.
So with respect, I'll follow up with Mr. Smith's comment, and I completely understand where he's coming from. There have been questions as to, well, how is this different? And what it comes down to is, it's the licensing that the state provides. So while a tasting room can be literally just that in the literal sense, a place where you come in and you try, you know, a flight of beer, or in Northern United's case, it could be a flight of beer, it could be a flight of wine or distilled spirits. I don't think you guys do meads yet, do you? Ciders. So, but it can also be, because of the way it's licensed through the state, it can have small food service, or it could literally be a full food service, just like a regular restaurant. It's what it comes down, the difference is licensing. And what Mr. Smith has alluded to, I completely understand, because the way the park was originally set up, that was before we had craft industries of this nature. And you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it a million times. It's up to the Planning Commission and Council as to how the park continues to operate. Does it evolve as new industries and technologies come on board, or do you want to keep it in that original, as it was originally envisioned? And that's completely within your purview.
So I go back to when we first approved it. And at that time, council made it known they did not want it to become a restaurant.
A full restaurant, and like I said.
And it's just taking, you know, steps over the years, continuously moving more so toward that.
I understand that, and I think part of it is because it's coming to understand the difference in the terminologies, and that's why I bring up the licensing. And maybe you understood that and others understood that from the get-go.
Because just because something is allowed, you know, through the licensing, doesn't mean that we necessarily have to agree with that
I
and
completely
allow it.
The other thing you'll notice, when the Planning Commission identified their conditions of approval, they asked for a bike rack for 8 spaces. Mr. Grant he followed up with that and sent me the photo that is in your packet. There is a bike rack already there.
That photo almost looks like it's Photoshopped in there.
It's not, I can
I know, but
attest,
that's
it's not Photoshopped.
If you look at it, it looks like something drawn on there.
He's not that skilled, is that what you said?
I mean, because, you know, it's,
Either in photography or
Jim,
Photoshop.
I was at the Null Tap House for several hours on St. Patrick's Day.
Mhm.
The bike rack was there.
but it just, the lines are so
Yes.
narrow. It just looks like it was drawn on there.
So that's why it's not listed as a condition under your motion.
I'm sorry. Mr. Cousins?
Well, Zach, you were first. Did you ask?
Go for it.
So, you know, I support the planning commissions, and I understand Jim's hesitancy, and I get the idea of this evolution of what this has been. I think I mentioned that when this came up 3 years ago, I was on the council, and I think I gave the story that my granddaughter, you know, who was a volleyball player since graduating from college, we would go to a number of tournaments in Schaumburg, Illinois, and follow her there. You know, it was, you know, a 4-hour trip there, and we got there and we spent the time there in the hotel, you know, but we always went out to eat. And where we went to eat was in this industrial park, which had a full, you know, tap room there, and it was a brewery, and they had a restaurant there. And it was the most enjoyable time we had the whole time we were there, you know, other than the volleyball games, because it was such a really, really nice atmosphere. When you were inside, you never even knew that you were in an industrial park. You were in a restaurant and in a pub area there. So I have no problem with this at all. I think what it does is bring more visitors, more glitz to the community here to have something like this. And it's certainly going to make a difference in their operational there, where they'll be able to serve people and be able to have a better operational operation. So I support this 100%.
Zach,
Two questions for staff and then one for the applicant. Could you give us a description of the work needed in the parking lot?
It's the typical potholes, fix the avenues, bumps and ridges and things like that, so.
And the applicant has identified a timeline and agreement of what's going to be done?
When they come in for the preliminary zoning compliance, that will be something that will be asked.
Okay. For clarity, should we add a condition, or are you comfortable at night that the previous special land use is voided or expired with this?
It already is.
It already has, so it's gone in the past, all right. And then for the applicant, my question would be, I'm assuming that this increased operation will make it easier for you to sell product and be sustainable operations.
For on-site specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, the, from a business objective, you know, perspective on this, it's being able to draw more people to the location because there's food is a big deal. So as of today, you know, we have small plates and snacks. This definitely enhances our ability to cater to a broader customer base that we can't cater to today. I mean, we allow people to bring food in and whatnot, but that doesn't happen as much as we would like it to. Folks generally either don't come or they go somewhere else for their evening experience or their dining experience. So,
Thank you.
and then on the, just if I could, one thing on the parking lot, we've already filled in all the potholes, had a crew out already because the weather broke and the ice was, it was gone, and then dry. The water and the ice were preventing us for a little while there, but that's been filled, and obviously we'll come to further conclusion on what needs to be done as we finish up the plans. So, yep.
What do you plan to serve, Tony?
So our chef who started Jolly Pumpkin Ann Arbor, Maggie Long, is going to be heading this operation, and so she's very much a farm-to-table chef. She works with a lot of farms here in the Chelsea, Dexter area already, and we have for years. So she'll be doing some of our items that we have in most of our locations, like burger, some of the appetizers, fries, some of the pizzas, but she'll also have a pretty fresh rotating menu of dishes that she's creating from local goods. So it'll be a fun menu that it will change a lot based on what she's putting together. Originally, we had planned it to be a concept where it was like you were in her kitchen. So it would be Maggie's, because you'd see what she was cooking. She would be kind of like coming home in the evening and somebody had made you a meal. So we'll integrate more of the Jolly Pumpkin feel to it, and then but she'll have a lot of leeway to be able to come up with new creations for us too.
You've talked about the grease issue. Grease.
They are very well aware of the grease issue. They have an interceptor that they are putting in based on the previous plan, so.
Great.
It'll just be in a new location.
Great. Okay. Those are my only questions.
I've known Maggie for a long time. She's an excellent chef, and she's a lot of fun to be around. And she not only started Jolly Pumpkin there, she started the restaurant downtown Detroit, and she's been involved with Avalon Bakery and the Avalon Restaurant here in Ann Arbor. So she's got a lot of skills, and you'll really enjoy the food.
She's exceptional. We're very lucky to have Maggie.
Well, there's a lot of employees that work there not only work there, but work in the industrial park.
Yes.
Another spot to get lunch is not a
Yep,
bad thing.
absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
And just one, I want to make sure, because I made sure this clarification to the planning commission. You've noticed this has come back multiple times every time they change the size, whatever. I've put in the total area of the tap house can't exceed the 15% per the ordinance. If for some reason they decide to expand again, as long as they're within the 15%, they won't be coming back for another special land use. It would be redundant, so, but I want to make sure that you understand that and are comfortable with that.
What's the total allowed on for 15%?
It comes out to just under 10,000 square feet.
Where are they at now, 7?
Oh, they're at, it's in here.
Thought it was.
They're at 10% right now with this expansion.
Oh, 69.76.
So they have a little ways to go.
Chantel?
Okay, answer my question about what you were gonna be serving. So I assume it's still gonna be family friendly, not gonna get all high end and snooty, where I can't afford to go.
You know me better than I
I hardly ever go there except when there's free food. And I had a real concern about the parking lot, because usually when I'm there, I have to park way up there. So how far back is this parking lot improvement going? Length of the building?
Because it can fill up, I'll be looking at the entire parking lot.
Around back and everything, both sides?
The planning commission's recommendation said parking lot, so that at this point, I interpret that to mean the whole thing.
Have they been in compliance with my buddy Dan?
Yes.
Is my buddy Dan happy?
Everything but phosphorus, but the phosphorus doesn't have anything to do with the restaurant, so.
Correct.
It's been about 4 or 5 months now where the DOT's.
You know, that was really bugging me there.
Slow,
Yes.
so
Mr.
we
Grant
need
is
to
quite
delay the
aware of that.
restaurant for that at this point.
It's all about bugs.
It is about those.
Kill them all.
No, don't kill them.
No.
Oh, wrong movie, sorry.
Wrong way, Raymond.
That was Alien, sorry. Do they provide a lot of entertainment?
And what do you mean entertainment?
Like singers or bands or?
I know they do different events for the different charities. They open up the tap house for that. But bands and things like that, that would be a
Yes.
question.
We currently have live music almost once a week. With the new setup, we wouldn't. It's up to the chef. If she wants to continue that,
I'm just wondering if the next thing I'm looking for is a dance license or whatever.
No, remember, this isn't a Class C license. This is
Well,
a-
that's my concern, because what's allowed and what isn't allowed. Is that allowed under the agricultural licensing or not?
I don't believe so, but I'll check for you.
I think you can wiggle in your seat, but that's as far as you can go.
You know me, Paul, I'm just looking for revenue. All right.
Any further questions?
No, I know it's the agricultural department, I can't argue with it.
Okay, motion by Michelle's, second by Knight to approve the special land use request. Please call the vote.
Tell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
No.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Michelle, for
Thank
your
you,
work on that.
council.
Good luck with the kitchen. New business item L2 is consideration of planning commission recommendation to approve the special land use application from Encore Theater for temporary employment housing at 3479 Central.
I can move it.
I'll second it.
Moved by Tell, seconded by Cousins. Thank you both.
Enthrall me.
Let me get the motion.
Okay, that you were reading the motion on page 84.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so I think you are
All conditions.
pretty familiar with this. The Encore Theater, in order to provide temporary housing for the professionals that they bring in for each of their productions. They purchased this house on Central Street so that they could put them up. It's for a temporary period of time, usually no more than 8 weeks. It's from the time they start rehearsing and putting the stage together, all the way through to the entire production run. The Planning Commission has recommended approval, subject to the conditions that you see. Excuse me. And there is they will be holding a public hearing at their April 2nd meeting to consider the text amendments to the zoning ordinance that are also triggered by this particular case. You'll recall that when this started, the Planning Commission went through the 307 review to determine whether the proposed temporary employment housing use would be compatible in the VR, Village Residential District. Planning Commission ultimately decided that it was a compatible use in that district as a special land use. And a couple of the things that they wanted to make sure, if this was going forward, and they have made this clear to the applicant at the time, were the concerns about occupancy. Would the structure remain a residential looking structure, both in the way it was maintained as well as its use. They wanted to make sure that it's utilized the way a single-family residential dwelling would be utilized. So, you know, what they don't want to see, what they didn't want to see, and there was quite a bit of discussion, is they don't want to see student housing like you see in Ann Arbor. That was one of the big concerns for the Planning Commission. One of the big differences in that type of temporary housing is people are paying for that. And our ordinance already covers that. So these are two separate. The other concern was how would people consider this temporary employment housing similar to short-term rental? And again, in the text amendment that's being proposed, we've identified the definitions of both and made it clear that temporary employment housing is not a short-term rental.
Before there's any further discussion, I want to offer to the council and to the applicant that 4 years ago, before my wife and I bought our house on Dover Street, we did put an offer on this house. I don't believe I hold any malice or favor towards the property. I do absolutely love our house. But if anyone has concerns, let me know and I will go sit in the other side of it. Again, I think I'm perfectly fine. Disclosure's good.
I used to live next door to it, is that?
Does that count?
All right, hearing none, it's a bit odd that we're approving this before the text amendment, but it's good that we're doing the text amendment because we're codifying the decision that was made, so that's good. Just a little odd feeling. I did have a question for the applicants if they had any concern or issues with any of the conditions as identified on page 84 of our report.
Mr. Kolb is here on behalf of the theater tonight.
So I didn't see that comment on page 84. The house is in, I've been through, I surveyed it, I did the as-built drawings. I don't know specifically what your question is. The upkeep of the house is, it's in very well taken care of shape. So there was no major issues that I was aware of structurally.
In their application, they had identified that it would remain looking like a residential. They're not proposing any exterior
So it's essentially,
changes.
what I've heard then is that there's nothing on page 84 that's giving the applicants heartburn or concern with those conditions.
No, that's all it is.
No.
Right.
No.
Okay, I'm good, thank you.
So just, let me throw a couple questions out. So there's a maximum number of sleeping rooms shall not exceed 3,
Mhm.
and that's on the second floor. I
Right.
understand that, I think, pretty well. And the maximum occupancy is 7
Mhm.
at any time.
Correct.
So none of these actors or actresses would have families sleeping there,
They might, and that was another part of the discussion.
but they just couldn't have a Super Bowl party.
Well, the
Well, no, that occupancy is different.
occupancy for sleeping, it doesn't, these are, how many people can be in a sleeping room? That's the occupancy that means. It doesn't mean occupancy within the house.
But that probably ought to be clear.
Well,
You can read it and see.
Well,
I was gonna say, so they can't. Yeah, that's confusing, there's
Okay.
7 that can live there.
There are
Okay,
7
I
that
mean,
can
well, I
sleep
guess I'll ask-
there,
I mean-
because remember, it's based on the International Property Code. That's how staff came up with my initial recommendation, which was to cap it
At 11.
At 11, because that's how many each of the rooms upstairs total could support, based on a recognized code. Planning Commission, it went back and forth between 8, well, I'm sorry. The 8 number came in because that's what the applicant has requested for occupancy in the sleeping rooms.
The 8 or the 7?
The 8. Planning Commission voted to make it 7.
Let me explain why.
Go ahead.
There are 3 bedrooms upstairs. 1 bedroom has a bathroom within the bedroom. And so 3 people using the 1 bathroom. The other 2 bedrooms, there's a adjacent bathroom that would service the other 2 bedrooms. So we figured 2 people in each of those bedrooms, and so then 4 people are sharing the other bathroom. That's how we ended up with 7.
Okay. So, let me ask the question a different way. So, at the end of a long, hard practice, or a week of practice, can they have a party?
I'm sorry? Yes, they could have a party.
Okay.
Because you could have a party in a residential structure.
Well, okay, well, then I do think that the occupancy thing needs to be reworded.
Okay.
Because
so-
7, maximum occupancy to me would mean there can only be 7 people in the house.
So we
At
can
any
do
one time.
sleeping occupancy, sleeping room occupancy.
That's better, if that's what's intended. Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Knight?
Yes, I see on page 98, a letter from Mr. John, Mr. Cole. Number 4, methods of operation. We talked about having an individual that will be responsible for exterior maintenance. Is this a local person, or,
Yeah, Ann Koch?
oh, he's gonna,
Yeah,
okay.
she's
He's gonna mow
the
grass,
managing director
wash
of the Encore,
windows,
so
whatever,
yeah. Yeah,
and then managed by the property will be by Ann.
Mhm.
correct.
Got it. Thank you.
Other council questions?
What about the, look on page 100, are we really gonna have 4 cars staggered in there?
Yes, that's,
Allowed?
yes, that would not be unrealistic for a house that size, a family that could have teenage children that are driving,
Okay, it's my house.
okay?
All right, is that dirt right now?
It is dirt.
Just wanna make sure it blends.
And just so we're clear, the spaces on Central are just shown graphically that there's 2 spaces that fit there.
Correct.
We're not assigning those spaces.
We're
to
not
anyone.
assigning, those are just to show that that is public parking in 2 spaces.
Yeah, okay.
Can you state that they could also park off the alley and back?
They could. My recommendation to, or My suggestion to planning commission was to consider requiring the applicant to actually have 3 spaces, parking spaces, off the alley. And ultimately, the planning commission decided that was may be too much of an overreach.
Okay. Seeing no further questions, okay if I call the vote?
And just to clarify, we're voting on the change language for maximum city occupancy.
Yeah, friendly amendment, is it okay if Talon Cousins accept that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definition of
Maximum
maximum sleeping
total
occupancy?
sleep.
Total sleeping is 7, occupancy is 7.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Good thing, good catch, Jack.
Okay, please call the vote, Ms. Jones?
Smith,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job, Carl.
Just as president, so not.
Right, scared us to death, the lawyer.
New business item L3, consideration of F&V construction management contract for wastewater treatment plant project.
I didn't get to it, hold on a second. Okay, where's the motion? Where's that motion? I
So
lost it.
it talks about the finalized document.
Yeah, we didn't really change it actually, after I talked to Craig and Scott.
Okay, so the version we have
Yeah,
is-
I mean, there might be
Previous
a
document?
few word tweaks, but nothing, yeah,
So this is,
So
that's
I'll move to
substantially complete.
approve the agreement on page 121 through whatever it is.
142.
142.
142 for F&B construction rework for the 2018 wastewater treatment plant improvements.
It actually only goes to 135, but
Okay, do that.
Second.
you get what you need.
So motion by Michelle's, second by Smith, was it?
yes.
Thank you both.
Just a couple of renumbering suggestions. On page 126, all the 7.1s have been deleted. And
Yeah, so this is a bit of a compilation because we had a couple different versions. So in the new one, it says 7.1 unused.
Okay.
That's how it'll look in the final version.
um,
I was trying to go back to what you guys saw last and then redline it as opposed to kind of the various versions we were going back and forth on.
And then a question observation under Article 8 on page 128. The language in there references City of Dexter, but elsewhere in the document it says the owner.
Mhm.
And in the front it identifies City of Dexter as the owner. Do we want
Yeah, and you know what
that?
happened is our insurance company rewrote that whole section, and so they would have just used City of Dexter. So we can go through and make it owner if you would prefer. But that's simply because our insurance company wrote that whole section on
Okay.
their own, and then we inserted it, so. That would be why the language is different.
So can somebody explain to me how this is mechanically gonna, if we approve this tonight, what happens next?
Well, that,
Give me a run through, like from now until the project construction starts, what takes place, when does the bidding occur, how do we see the bidding?
so the
How do we
next,
understand savings and all that stuff? Give me a run through how this is administered, or whatever the word would be. Please.
Hello,
Hi,
David
again.
Harvey. Nice to see everyone again. Sure, I'll take you through that. What we'll do at this point is we'll create front-end documents within the specifications where we're going to be breaking out the various trades, trade contracts into separate components and giving each trade contract separate items of work to do within the project that brings it all together as one whole project. So the initial phase is to do that. We'll do that work, and then the project will be advertised for bid. We'll receive bids on various trades. Once all the pricing comes together, we'll update the Exhibit A within the agreement that identifies each trade cost or subcontract cost, and then bring that back before council for approval. So essentially, we'll take it through bidding, and then once the final price is put together, we'll come back to you and put the final pricing together and ask for approval at that point.
So that Exhibit A is what's shown on page 136, right?
Yeah, that's what will get updated when the bids are approved.
And what's shown here is an estimate or a sample of how it,
Right.
So this is going to be the cost estimate, $4.8 million?
Right, that includes everything except for the design phase that we're currently in.
Correct.
so in this example then, the general conditions is what percentage?
The general conditions is an actual number that will be developed. The numbers for general condition, construction management, basic services, those are all, say, comparable numbers that were used on a similar size project. We just put those in there for now so you'd have an idea what those costs would be.
But the construction management overhead and profit fee is defined in here at the 8.25 or whatever, right?
Correct. So that gets calculated once the total trades is, the bid prices come in. And once we know what our general conditions are going to be, then that's just a direct calculation based on that subtotal of 8.25%.
Well, we don't know the general conditions now?
No, we haven't had time to put that together. We need council's approval to change our front-end documents to construction management, and we'll prepare those documents. For right now, that's just an estimate. I anticipate it's going to be less than that. On past projects, we've done less, or we've been able to provide those services for less.
So what's covered under general conditions?
Oh, general conditions includes the cost of bonds, insurances, lodging, vehicle charges, mileage, printing,
The construction trailer, if you guys provide
construction
that.
trailer, thank you, electricity, water, porta-johns. There's more. Those are probably the biggest costs I'm thinking of right now. Per diem insurance,
And then what's the difference between construction phase engineering and project management site superintendent?
Under basic service and project management site superintendent, that's the construction manager and the site superintendent. So that's quite basically the labor associated, the labor associated with the construction manager, the site superintendent, office staff that do payment applications, contractor or subcontractor payment requests, coordination of shop drawings, change orders, addendums, or I should say bulletins, those type functions. So there's a lot of office support as well as field work and costs associated.
You're
with that.
describing the basic services?
Yes.
So what's the construction phase engineering?
Construction phase engineering is with F&V Construction, or excuse me, F&V Engineering, who did the design. Those will be, that will be a lot less than the values listed there of that 230. But that includes.
Okay, Well, no, because otherwise it doesn't make sense to do this.
Right.
But that's the
Right.
draft scope that was provided.
And this is
with it.
draft scope. But that includes review of
That's
this,
on page 141 and 142.
review of the shop drawings, submittals, responding to requests for information from subcontractors, participation in the pre-construction meeting, site survey, construction staking. I shouldn't say site survey, but construction staking and survey.
You said after the engineering does the O&M manual.
O&M manuals, yes. And also, if there's special startup that needs to occur, our engineering staff will come out for equipment startup and say our site superintendent may not be an expertise in electrical, so we want our electrical designer to come out and take a look to make sure that the installation is correct, because it is a rated space, say the headworks is, so it needs to follow code, so that there's no issues with compliance with the code on that.
And council would adopt the F&B engineering contract once the bids are received and the costs are more defined separately from this. I just wanted to make sure council is aware that F&B engineering doesn't disappear as part of the construction management contract.
And then at the end, we also provide record drawings of the facility, of the improvements.
Zach?
I just wanted to make sure that I had a clear understanding of why liquidated damages on page 124 was released. So my understanding is that because of the nature of these improvements, if it doesn't get done when we expect it to get done, there's not going to be greater costs incurred to the city for operation of the system compared to the sludge where we had to do more hauling.
Right, so, I mean, there's, obviously a benefit to everyone to get this over with as quickly as possible, but there isn't as much of a cost, and me, I'd rather pay less on the front end of the.
Tend to the.
Exactly, because there's less of a risk of it, we don't have headworks system now. The sand filters are operating to some capacity, but not what we need them to operate on now, so it is different.
And on the payments, is 30 days going to be enough for it to get turned around and paid?
Yeah, we haven't had an issue with 30 days.
Okay.
15 is more challenging, but 30 is okay. That's consistent with now.
And then Dave, could you explain? So we're approving the 8.5 to 8.25%, but we're not approving the general conditions lump sum,
Right.
and we're not approving the construction phase engineering,
Right.
These are all estimates.
and we're not approving the basic services. All the things that are blue, hatched blue are
Right,
estimated.
those will all come back, right, for final approval.
Yes.
So explain how the construction manager contingency allowance works versus the owner contingency.
Okay, we had provided some examples on that, but say if there's something that is in the design, I'm thinking back to a project we did with City of Sturgis, like we were 1,000 feet short on fence removal. Well, it should have been part of the project, or part of the original scope. That's something that should come out of this CM contingency. That's a value that should have been,
The quantity should have been there from the beginning.
Quantity
it just
should have been
wasn't.
there.
Yeah,
Exactly.
okay, yeah.
So that would be an example, like if there's a piping change or something like that, that would be a CM contingency. If,
I gave other examples, like excavation, field changes in pipe layout, electrical modifications, and other items that weren't requested by the owner. So the big thing, we discussed this a lot, because it was new to me as well, and if it's not a requested change because the owner wants to change it, it's something that just needs to get changed because it was something that could have been incorporated in the design, or if the, field changes to make it something better that isn't necessarily our request, that's when it would cover, that kind of change. And then in the end, they're entitled to keep 20% of any amount that isn't unused from that pot of money. But then at some point, once the substantial completion is reached, that any amount that's not used beyond the 20% would become available to us if we did want to do something more or use it, which we don't. But we could. I have made perfectly clear on many occasions to them. That's why they're laughing. So.
We all know her.
Okay, the reason I asked him to explain it was the wording of not related to a change order. I mean, extra fencing would require a change order.
Right, I guess I could have called it an owner requested change order. I was using that language from somewhere.
Yeah, I should clarify that everything will go through a change with the city. You'll see every change order that we have.
But essentially, we're pre-approving that amount. I mean, we don't want to be controlling the job from this table.
Right.
We would be pre-approving a certain amount that, as long as it made sense, we understood you guys would implement.
Right,
Exactly.
we're just made aware of them.
And then you just make us aware of as it occurred or whatever, but.
But yeah, no, you wouldn't have to approve unless which it won't exceeded that amount and became a problem, but.
I've asked my levy of questions. Does anyone else have any?
You got the main ones out, okay?
Well, we tried to do a lot of research. I mean, we talked to Hudson, we talked to Sturgis, Dan talked to Sturgis. I actually talked to the Sturgis manager for quite a while. They do a lot of CM and design build type of projects. He really likes doing those. And they've gone through the whole process. Hudson is only kind of at the beginning of one. And tried to learn, like I said, I had it reviewed by an insurance company, and F&B accepted all the changes. Scott Mazzell, they accepted all of his changes. We did talk about the arbitration, which I think we're just gonna leave the way that it is in this draft, that it's an option, but it's not, we also have a still option to go to court if we had to. Scott was more comfortable with that, and F&B could go either way, so I said they were really open to accepting all of our contractual suggestions that Scott and Craig had.
So are the basic services defined?
Yeah, that's,
I see
page
changes in-
right here, it's this construction manager's basic services. So it's basically the 3 section.
So none of those services are in what we approved for the design?
They were, yes, but they're taken out of that. So anything having to do with the bidding phase is not coming out of the F&B design contract, so that contract will be under.
So what did we save there?
Well, yeah, I think it's 25,000 from one, they'll be in this one, so it's not necessarily savings, because they still have to bid
Well,
it.
as long as we're not double.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we talked.
It'll come out of one contract, but go into the other one, but it's not necessarily gonna be 21,000 because most of the heavy lifting is done by the construction company as opposed to F&B engineering.
We hope to have it done, or the bids released like mid-April, I think, mid to late April.
Yeah, mid to late April is what we're targeting to get this all pulled together. We're in QC right now, and we're making final revisions, but we do need to revisit all the specifications and redo the front end documents. The most significant effort at this point will be to break out the trades. That'll take a couple weeks to do to make sure we got the scopes as best defined as possible.
And we had our 95% design meeting, so we're pretty much done on the design side.
Yes.
Are all of the additional services need to be in here?
I believe it states to the effect that
I mean, haven't you done all
written
these?
approval by the owner, like, I think O&M manual might be in there, but that's actually being done by the engineer.
After the engineering, right?
But, so why don't we, why wouldn't we take that out? I mean, why would?
Well, we would only, I mean, we would have to give permission to do any of those. I mean, it says after authorization from the owner, they would perform these additional services, so we wouldn't give them permission to do them unless.
Okay, it's just confusing. Some of the stuff, I'm assuming that the design team already did.
Right, I think they're just making clear that F&D construction isn't doing them, F&D design. If we were asking F&D construction to do them, we would have to pay extra, but we've already had F&D design do them.
So how many people do you envision on this?
And the total project?
Yeah, how many people does it take to manage something like this?
Oh, well, there'd be myself, there'd be a construction manager, site superintendent, office staff, which would be 1 or 2 on the construction end, and then the whole design team, which is probably six to 10 different people on the engineering side, responding to submittals.
How many full-time people?
How many full-time equivalents? That's a good question. I know full-time would be the site super. He's number one. He's going to be he's going to be the guy here every day, overseeing everything. Boy, everybody else. I hadn't really thought about that. That's a good question.
Maybe I'm just scared by the numbers, that's why I'm asking those questions. So if you're gonna refine that, I'll.
Yeah, I mean.
It'll be
well,
refined.
Like a lot of times when we have that where you have to get the bid to know how many construction days the contractors think they need, and then you use that to determine how much time someone's gonna have to be here. I mean, one contractor might say it's gonna take them 100 days, and one might say 200 days.
There's 50% of this, or 1/3 of this job is not the trades.
It's not the
And
trade,
Right,
you
yeah.
said.
The construction phase, it's a lot.
Right.
It's a lot, that's a higher percentage than I would expect. But that's maybe because the numbers are high. So I'm just,
And right, and we'll see them all.
okay, so at this point, we're just approving, basically, we're approving the format of this agreement plus the 8.25%?
Right, so that they can do the bid document the way that they need to do to issue them. Because if we don't do any of this, then it gets issued totally differently than if we do this, so.
So that's the basic services, that it's 3.1 down to 3.128.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the time, Dave.
Thank you.
Does anybody else, any different questions from mine?
No, when does it start? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, okay.
Hopefully July, August.
Okay. Carol, please call the vote.
Knight,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes?
Michelle's.
Yes, you said.
Keo.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. If you could put the 8.25% in the.
Okay.
Okay, new business item L4, consideration of healthcare savings plan amendment.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached amendment to the participation agreement for Division 301, 302.
Second. Motion by Smith, second by Michelle. Thank you both. Couple questions?
So if Dan is in the class with himself, doesn't affect anybody else, but it puts him up in a better position for when he's done riding the equipment.
Okay, please call the vote.
Cousins.
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries. The business item L5, consideration of modification to the tap fee payment policy.
I'll move the modification so we can discuss it.
Second.
Moved by Smith, second by Michelle. Thank you. Courtney or Michelle, would you like to review?
We've been working with some questions from Oxford who has tenants moving in that need to pay additional tap fees due to the calculation based on the use. And so one of the things we decided to offer was to separate, right now we allow anyone with over 32,000 to pay over 3 years. So we kept that for new businesses, but then said that if there was a business that, where some tap fee has been paid, but they owe this upcharge, that we would allow them to pay it over 5 years, but that we would place it on their water bill so that it's coming in at least every other month. So we're not in a situation where, one, we have to remember to do it, you know, that they're getting one lump sum that they might not remember at the end of the year. And then this way, you know, we're at least getting some amount of money every other month on these tap fees.
So it's going to set the amount as tap fees over 8,000
Right. Which is basically over one.
and pay for it over a 5-year plan.
Yeah.
So I'll add that information to the motion.
The incremental amount over 8,000, because this is not for new tap fees.
Right, so they would already have
Right.
some level.
Yeah, the amendment is for existing, new businesses and existing buildings.
Correct.
Right.
And so to allow those businesses to pay a tap fee over 8,000 over a 5-year period.
So Courtney, this is a cleanup draft, is that what you said?
Yes, yeah.
So why does this say 3 year? If we're talking about,
Oh, I think because we ended up
Five.
with too many versions of this stupid thing, I guess, as usual. So it should be 5. Oh, wait, no, that's the
the old one.
multi-year tap fee. That is still 3. It's this one that's 5.
so why don't we label this one new, at the top, multi-year tap fee payment agreement, new commercial, and then the other one, incremental. Why don't we label those to distinguish them? Questions? Zach?
As I read it, if you've got an existing industrial structured use development, you don't qualify for the lower.
The need is not the same,
Okay.
or I should say the barrier generally is not the same.
Perhaps a clarification I might recommend is on the, where it says new commercial or industrial development, adding development after commercial, so new commercial development or industrial development. I knew that those linguistic classes would pay off.
Where was that, Zach?
The-
In the middle.
The red paragraph
Yeah.
at the top, so new commercial development or industrial development. Because when you just have the development at the end,
I see.
it's new this or new that.
Okay. Yeah, so thank you.
Has this been floated past any of the folks that are caught in the buzzsaw?
We have talked about it with them. They knew that the council was going to be discussing it tonight, or considering it tonight. They were encouraged to attend and provide any comments if they wanted. They're not here.
So, Courtney, let me ask a question. In this case, if the incremental and putting it on the water bill, if there's no if the business goes out of business after 3 years, or somewhere before the 5 years, don't just shift the water bill to Oxford? Or could we switch, let me say this, could we switch the water bill to Oxford's name and make them pay the rest of it?
You could, but they will fight that, they don't want that.
Well, I know they like to fight though.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about doing it that way, I was, you know,
I'm just thinking out loud.
Mhm.
So as it's structured today, if they pay half and then they disappear, they go somewhere else, the location gets the half, and
Correct.
then we stop. Yeah.
That location gets it, and so the next tenant
has a higher credit.
realizes that credit and continues on. They can either pay what's left, or they can take it out over the years, depending on if it's more than $8,000 or not.
Same amount of time that was left?
As
So
long
like
as it's
if they-
over
That's a good point.
8,000.
They don't get another 5 years.
No.
Well, if it was over 8,000, they would.
They would.
The way that it is now, they would just start fresh
Yep.
with that credit.
That's how I did it.
So say it's 10,000 and after 3 years, 2/3 or 3/5 have been paid, right?
And that would bring it under 8,000.
So 6,000 has been paid. They would still owe 4,000 over the next couple of years.
No, because that would not be over 8,000, so they wouldn't qualify for this, they'd have to pay the 4,000.
No. The overall is 10,000,
Mhm.
Right.
all right? And then if you said, okay, you're paying back 2,000 a year, they leave after 3.
Right. So that
So-
business has, there's $6,000 now, so now
Right.
the new business only owes 4.
Right.
So it's not 8, so they would have to pay the 4. They couldn't take it out over
Okay.
5 years.
Or didn't know whether they were being given the 2 years to pay it.
No,
No.
no, you
Okay.
just start fresh and.
That's what I just
yeah.
wanted to
We're gonna
clarify.
pay the 4,000.
Yeah, unless it's over 8, then you don't owe over 8.
Okay.
I'm very excited for this. It's a silly little thing, but I think it can really help a lot of folks trying to do stuff.
Yeah.
So the question, I guess, that I have for council is, and I think it's necessary too, but, you know, the two entities that are being talked about right now are both at Oxford's open space, right? I mean, they're both out at Dexter Crossing. Do you want to get input from them?
Are these two people?
Well, no, not from these two people. I mean, this topic of what to do, how to do it, you know, has been going on for 6 months. Right, I mean, they've been asking the question, what's the tap fee, how's it impact? I mean, if you go back to at least 90 days or 100 days to when some of us were at that business workshop, Tom Covert brought this up at the library. He was talking about one of the businesses that we're still talking about today.
Right.
Obviously, this would be a step in the right direction. We don't know if they would think it's a good option or a bad option.
I can tell you that their attorney that sent the list of questions asked for 10 years.
Right, I read that.
They know that we have proposed 5 years. I've had that discussion with the property manager who passed it on, and their attorney came back with 10.
I'm okay, let's take it off. And Mark Jacobs looked at this?
No.
Think we should have him look at it? Or by virtue of not doing it, you didn't think it needed to be?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, we already had the payment policy, so, you know, we're not waiving it, we're just extending the payment period, so I don't.
So if they don't pay their utility bills, is that the thing that goes on taxes?
Yeah.
we setting ourselves up for them benefiting in some way if it goes on the taxes?
I don't know if we could put this portion of it on the taxes. I mean, we definitely can for the, you know, water and sewer commodity charges. I don't know if we'd be able to wrap that unpaid amount necessarily onto taxes. I don't think that's as clear as the, you know, water and sewer usage charges.
So should that be, is that a concern or not a concern?
It would be from Oxford's standpoint.
I can't hear you.
It would be from Oxford's standpoint, based on that.
I mean, if they don't pay their water bill, we can just shut them off. We don't have to let it wrap to taxes.
Okay.
So, in this case, if they're not paying their tap fee, then they could, right, they could just get shut off based on it, which is probably what I would do before I would put it on there. Anyway.
But they'd sign and agree to one of these, we'd have their signature in writing on it anyway, so, okay. Zach?
Just wanted to confirm that this extra process won't create strain or stress for staff because we're able to automate it as part of.
That's why we chose this water bill business, because it's something that we can set up as a 5-year extra charge on there so that it's not somebody that has to remember every year to send an invoice.
Like the Bronco girl said it, forget it.
Right.
Okay.
That was the benefit of the use of the water bill.
I can tell you that I met with one of, somebody who's looking to expand an existing business that's there now, and add showers to it. And that would have an incremental increase. When I explained to him that there was a potential that council would consider 5-year payment of it, he was okay with that.
Snap Fitness.
I can't tell you.
It's only Snap Fitness is there, I know what it is. So.
It's Jeff.
I'm gonna make my wife come home and shower anyway.
Questions? Okay, so motion by Smith, second by Michelle. I don't believe there's been any proposed major changes other than the word development after commercial. Is that correct?
Okay.
Okay, please call the vote.
Ned?
Yes.
Tell?
Yes.
Michelle?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Cousins?
Yes.
Keel?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. New business item L6, consideration of JGR scope for the design of landscaping in the roundabouts for an amount not to exceed $2,900.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Cousins, second by Knight. Thank you both.
This is something we talked about over the past year or so, and, the spots that are within the roundabouts are small, but there's still a possibility of potentially adding something drought resistant and super tolerant, inside of them, so I would have JGR take a look at it. See what she could come up with. I guess one of the questions would be whether council was thinking one of them would have an entryway sign, like bushes. Or, yeah, kinda like bushes, entryway sign. Or are you just thinking plant light?
It's
And
kind
the
of the
second
city.
one, well, the second one is,
The
the Van
second
Hoyt
one.
one is, yeah.
A portion of the first one, kisses.
All right, yeah, the Walkabout Creek Drive,
I,
the newly minted Walkabout.
Yeah, you're right about that, I guess.
I would personally say open it up to them. I think it'd be nice to have some sort of documentation, entry point, arrival.
Right.
Drive around the roundabout, fireworks go off or something like that?
Yeah, or you have a dreadnought ship there that fires out.
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, subtle.
No water, no
Subtle.
water
Which,
features.
I'm surprised more high school students haven't realized this as part of the prank. If you got 10 cars to drive around the roundabout, no one else can get through.
When that happens, Zach, we're gonna know where to go.
or a sign like the old baseball cards where like you turn it one way and he moves.
Right.
As long as they don't start doing figure eight.
Okay, no further questions, comments? Please call the vote.
Smith,
Yes.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins.
Yes?
Keo.
Yes. Motion carries for the schematic design. New business item L7, consideration of a recommendation from the Parks and Rec Commission to accept donation of a bicycle repair station.
I'll move that with the conditions stated in page 165.
Second.
Motion by Smith, second by Michelle's. Thank you both.
For 166, I should say.
Sorry.
Two questions for staff about the conditions. Why was that location deemed to be the most appropriate, and why the dark green?
There is an existing bicycle rack that is green near that location. That's why green, and also why they thought it would be appropriate to have a bicycle repair station located in that position. There's already a bicycle-related amenity.
Thank you.
Paul?
Are they gonna paint it, or are we painting it, or is it, can you purchase it green?
You can purchase it
Okay.
in different
Colors,
colors.
okay. And the second question is, it says that project will be completed this summer in conjunction with a citywide sidewalk repair and replacement plan to be cost shared between the library and the city. Has that been defined yet, of who's paying for what and how
No,
much?
so we need to get an estimate now when we have the bid prices on what it'll cost to run the sidewalk to see how much of it the library is able to cover.
And is this portion of it going to be an extra portion of that, other than the sidewalk?
The
The little
cement
square?
pad, yeah,
The pad will be different?
yeah.
We'll cover that, I assume,
Yeah.
for that.
Does that area leave enough room to actually do that?
It's pretty open in that area of the park. Or do you mean like not blocking the sidewalk?
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at, I think this is a great idea, don't hear me wrong. Just looking at this and, bikes this long and this looks really skinny and there's not, I don't know how much room is there. Would you want to do that right next to the stairs? I don't know, just.
So it would be off to the side of the stairs, so I don't think you'd be blocking the stairs in any capacity. It might block the sidewalk between the stairs and the library patio, right? They have the sidewalk. But I'm not sure how much traffic that area will get, and unless someone's in a wheelchair, they could just walk around.
Is there any reason that the pad can't be bigger?
I was thinking it could go on the other side of the bike rack was my thought.
It's
Moving away from the stairs, so
So
you're-
if the stairs are here and the bike rack is here, it would go here.
Yeah, because then you could have as much room as you wanted that way.
Mhm.
But that just asking, I think it's a great idea.
I don't have any problem with either, I just think that, the potential of having it there, if they just make a bigger pad, they could just shove
Yeah, I'm
the
just,
two
if you see,
vertical parts of it
if you see
back.
where they've got it, it's into the hill, it's right at
Right.
so you're limited by the hill, the stairs, and now the existing bike racks. Anyway, maybe it's bigger than it looks, I
Yeah,
couldn't tell, I
based-
couldn't tell.
Based on the scale, it looks like that square is 5 foot by 5 foot.
Right, which is pretty tiny if you're trying to hang a bike and sit and
Your butt's gonna be out,
wrench.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
your feet, or something else, so,
Just
We
something
can
to look
look at the site.
Yeah, we'll put it in there vicinity.
It's a great idea.
And then
I
how
get
will
the
we
grant.
advertise that it's there? How will people know that it's there? Just word of mouth?
Yeah, we can advertise it. I mean, we can certainly tell the Ann Arbor Touring Bicycle Society to advertise it as well. They have
We
issues with
can
that.
put it on Facebook and
They have to
email
get the
out
grant too, right? I mean.
Yeah, so they just have to,
They're
have to
good.
receive the grant, in order to do it, but. They did install one in a park in Ann Arbor, and a copy of that. What that looks like is included in the packet.
Yeah, like, you know, like in this picture here,
Mhm.
I would think that you'd want it further back.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
said.
You know, deeper, you
Yeah.
know, so that you're not,
It's a bigger path.
yeah. Okay, that's cool.
I would have thought they would have gone a bit closer to the boardwalk path rather than by the library, on the way there.
Yeah, the Parks and Rec didn't really want to clutter the main pathway too much.
Kind of want to keep it to the edges.
Yeah.
And if it was kind of near something that was already,
Mhm.
like, right, if it was already there, you're not adding like another visual
Mhm.
obstruction.
If you're with other people, they can go sit on the patio there by
Right.
the library.
Right, because one of the things we wanted to do with that library path is add a handicap accessible picnic table that we had in storage, because we didn't have a pad to put it on that connected to a sidewalk that was compliant, so we'll be getting that out of storage and kind of a nice picnic table area there as well.
Okay, please call the vote if there's no questions, no further questions.
Michelle's,
Yes.
Knight,
Yes.
Cousins,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Tell,
Yes.
Keel.
Yes, motion carries, thank you. Council comments this evening, starting with Zach, are you ready, sir?
I don't have anything.
Okay. No, it's okay.
Next time.
It's okay.
It's fine, it's fine.
Here's what I
You don't have to go
do,
over
for
it.
next time, I'd like an explanation of when you switch from spaghetti to pennies.
Right.
Okay, that's what I need to know, is what caused that shift?
All right, I'll write down.
Ms. Knight?
I just want to wish everyone a happy Easter
Nice.
next week.
I would like to just jump in here and say that our city manager passed the 4th out of 4 accounting tests this past week, CPA exams, all on her first try.
Wow.
Last one was an 88 or something, I think, right, as you told me?
Yeah, that's right.
So, congratulations for all your hard work.
Thank you.
That's pretty good.
Well, be damned, she's smart.
We knew that.
Smarter and smarter,
Physical
man.
proof now.
Ms. Jones?
One thing, you were talking about recycling and what, since my daughter was over in Chelsea, they no longer can recycle glass
Mhm.
in their recycling, yeah,
That's a big problem with glass.
so.
What do you do with it?
You should
Throw it
put
in
it
your
to
garbage.
mom's
Well,
recycling. Because we can still do
Throw it in
glass.
garbage, it just goes out, you know.
Yeah, which I think is,
Yeah, they don't want glass.
yeah, I don't like
I don't
that
know if I can do
idea.
that, it's been so long since I threw
It's
out
the
there.
reprocessing center. you know,
Because I think they take it to
market
Western
for it.
Washington now, because, well, they have their own, you know, they don't do a contracted utility, they have their own, you know, utility. But I just don't think, I don't like that idea.
Yeah, no, it's tough, the recycling market is very tough.
Mr. Tell?
No, thank you.
Mr. Cousins?
All set.
We're back around in non-arranged?
Quick reminder, Firehouse Friday this Friday.
Oh,
All right. Largest Firehouse Friday event of the year, so. 34 country be there.
Oh,
Great.
Bubba.
What time's that start?
6.
I know I get there at 5, so.
Anytime after 5.
I think they come on at 6 to 9.
Thank you.
Ray will be there.
I will seek the motion for adjournment, please.
So, no.
Moved by Smith,
So Ray will not be there.
second by Knight, thank you both. All in
Ray
favor?
walked by at 8:30 getting coffee next door.
We are adjourned.
There it is.
Look at Knight.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we did, pretty good for Monday and Wednesdays.
Zach still making his white wood?
He's one of the most conscientious people I ever met.